One of the most significant factors that has allowed cryptocurrency markets to grow the way they have is access to secure storage. Because banks that hold cryptocurrency aren't widely available and aren't necessarily desired either, entities that own cryptocurrency are solely responsible for it. This allows these entities to be free of the costs and regulations that come with typical banking services. However, it also means that if their crypto is lost, it's almost impossible to get it back. Recently, finance magnates spoke with Eric Larchevêque, CEO of cryptocurrency hardware wallet firm Ledger, about the ways that secure crypto storage is evolving and about how his company is working to support the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So Eric, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Ledger and crypto to begin with?
Yes, of course. So I made my first company in '96. So I have been mostly an entrepreneur all my life. I have my background. I have engineering in a degree in engineering of electronic engineering. So I have done a few startups in France and also in Europe. And in 2013, I sold the price comparison engine. And then I was looking for my next adventure. And that's at this time that I stumbled upon Bitcoin. And I was very curious about what it was and how it worked. And so I spent 1 week reading everything I could about the technology, about mining, blockchain. And I was really in awe. I was like, struck by lightning. For me, it was clear blockchain technology and Bitcoin will be the roots of a future revolution. And I really had to do something in the space. But I didn't know what to do exactly because I didn't know enough the ecosystem and the technology. So to start, I decided to be very horizontal, and I opened a Bitcoin center in Paris, La Maison du Bitcoin, the House of Bitcoin.
Okay.
Which is a physical space. So it was quite interesting for the media at the time to have a physical space for a virtual currency. But the idea was really to explain the technology, to have a place where developers, entrepreneurs, enthusiasts could come and discuss and ask questions, and also buy, sell Bitcoins. We had one of the first physical counter for Bitcoin.
Okay.
And this is how I started. And by managing the House of Bitcoin, I crossed the path of two startups. One was called BT Chip, and basically was putting the ground of the technology of hardware wallet on secure chips. But it was very raw technology, not really a product. And there was another startup called ChronoCoin, and basically they were selling Bitcoin through postal services. And they needed to get a media, something to put the private keys. And so ChronoCoin started to work with BT Chip, and they produced the first level of an actual hardware wallet products. And I saw them working together. I gave them some advice about how they could do it, etc. And basically, we shared the same vision that blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies could not scale without proper endpoint security. And that's with the smart card technology, France had something to put on the table that for once being French was more like an advantage than something else. And so we decided to merge the three startups, so the House of Bitcoin, BT Chip, and ChronoCoin, to create Ledger. So this is how Ledger was founded, end of 2014, with the mission, which is still the same today, to build security infrastructure for blockchain applications.
Right. And Ledger works with institutional grade security measures as well as, provides options for retail crypto investors. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, because the foundation technologies of Ledger is based on secure hardware. From the beginning, we wanted to build a professional solution that could get certified. We believe that the only way for the cryptocurrency industry to become professional, like to get better in maturity and really scale, we need to have standardization, we need to have certification, we need to have some kind of technological rules to build trust. And so we have built everything based on secure chips, because it's possible to get certification. So it's basically you can audit it and make sure that it does what it says it does. And this is based on this possibility and this promise that we have been able also to build solutions for enterprises. And that's one of the major points that differentiate us from our competition, because we have this approach based on secure chips and third-party certification.
Right. So when you say third-party certification, as you said, that has to do with getting audited by private firms and not by regulators, at least not yet.
Yeah, in fact, you have a target of evaluations, and then you get audited by laboratory that gets approval of, let's say, regulators. And the role of the regulators is to give rules. And, all these security issues can only be solved mostly by technology, but to make sure that people use the right technology, you need regulation. So it's a combination of both, and having the capacity to get certified and get audited is the only way to achieve maturity into the ecosystem. Right.
So I think, almost everyone or maybe everyone who listens to this podcast is familiar with Ledger, and familiar with the concept of cryptocurrency hardware wallets. And that's kind of the gold standard of the safest way that most people can store their cryptocurrency. But I'm curious what you think. Like, in 10 years, will we still be walking around with little, pieces of chips and digital hardware that will carry our cryptocurrency, or will that look different in the foreseeable future?
So that's a very good question. I would say that right now, for sure, the best way to secure your cryptocurrencies is to use a hardware wallet, because it provides isolation. It's like cold storage that you can always use. But the most difficult thing with hardware wallets for adoption is that you need to buy a hardware wallet. So it's not something that everyone wants to do. It can work for the first millions of the first tens of millions of users, but it cannot scale for hundreds of millions or billions of users. So we are pretty sure that in 5 years or 10 years, but most probably in 5 years, smartphones will have the right technology to ensure the right level of security. So hardware wallets will still be a thing, because I guess for some specific applications, or because some people will prefer to have a dedicated device to secure their cryptocurrencies. So it will still exist, but if we think about the real adoption of cryptocurrencies, either through decentralized cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin or tokenization, stable coins, etc., it will go through smartphones. And today it's not the case, because the level of hardware security that is in smartphone is not yet good enough, and there is a lot of fragmentation. But a lot of smartphone manufacturers want to offer their customers the possibility to own their data, to have their own sovereignty regarding data, and crypto assets is a very good example. So on their roadmap, they have product-wise, they want to add secure chips, they want to add the right trusted execution environment to guarantee the security of such crypto assets in the smartphones. So in 5 years, Ledger will most probably license much more its technology to smartphone provider rather to sell hardware wallet as a device.
Right. And on the note of owning data, so Ledger has developed this technology to very securely keep safe. I'm curious, like, if data ownership is becoming a more and more important issue, as it is there any inkling of plans that Ledger might start to provide services for data ownership outside of cryptocurrency?
Yeah, of course. So the technology of Ledger is really about securing critical data at the endpoint. Cryptocurrency is a very good use case for that. There could be others, but right now we do not have any immediate plans to work more on any kind of data, personal data, signature of things, etc.
Okay, I see. And we touched briefly earlier on some of Ledger's enterprise grade offerings.
I'm curious if you can go a little bit more into detail about the kinds of things that Ledger offers for institutional and enterprise level users and customers.
Sure. So when you have a hardware wallet, it's for one individual. So if you are a company, a financial institution, and you want to secure hundred millions of dollars in crypto, you could use a Nano S or a Nano X. But then the question is, to whom do you give control of the device? Who has access to the PIN code? Also, what happens if you have a hostage situation, for instance, in the company? It will be like having $100 million in cash in the safe of the company.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a hardware wallet can be very good for individual. It can be used by an institution, but it doesn't scale. So we have introduced the Ledger Vault, which is a technological answer. It's a platform to provide these institutions with governance when managing their crypto assets. So basically, we offer all the solutions which are based as well on hardware security. So it can be at the server level, it can be at the endpoint level. We offer all the solutions to be able to manage any kind of crypto assets with rules, such as someone can initiate a transaction, others can confirm it. You can have all the auditability, you can have all the traceability, you have all the connections to other kind of back office. And so it allows an institution to build its cryptocurrency back office. And it's a technological layer. It's really a technological response to the need of an enterprise to manage their crypto assets with teams and governance.
Okay, so this is maybe sort of similar to Casa. Are you familiar with Casa?
So Casa is a solution to do multi-signature.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Ledger Vault is providing is indeed multi-signature, but with much more, let's say, rules. Casa is much more simple, I would say, in its approach. So it's the difference is more regarding the number of cryptocurrencies and the complexity of the rules that you can implement. But Casa is using hardware wallets to make its multi-signature. Some keys can be secured by a hardware wallet. With the Ledger Vault, there is also the private keys are also managed in what we call hardware security modules at the server sides, which allows for much more flexibility. So I would say that the Ledger Vault is much more complex and targets like large financial institutions or financial institutions who plan to manage large amount of cryptocurrencies.
Okay, I see. So I'd like to hear a little bit about the partnership that Ledger recently made with Legacy Trust to provide some institutional grade cryptocurrency custody specifically for ERC20 tokens. Can you talk to me a little bit about the details of this partnership and what this means in a practical sense?
So Legacy Trust is a customer of our enterprise solutions, the Ledger Vault. Mm-hmm. So we have about 30 customers as of today. And so there is a few, I would say, institutions who want to build custodian solutions for third parties, for hedge funds and others. So they need not only all the regulatory and the compliance level to manage cryptocurrencies, but also the technical back office to make sure they can apply all the governance that is mandated by the compliance and the regulation. Mm-hmm. So Legacy Trust signed a contract with Ledger so we can provide them with all the technology they can use to deploy their own solutions. They are going to focus on ERC20 tokens, but with the Vault, they could also manage any kind of cryptocurrencies. So we are really a technology providers, and this is also what we are doing with other institutions, such as Nomura, a Japanese bank, who also wants to build Komenu, which is a custodian for cryptocurrencies. So that's what Ledger is doing with its enterprise-based solution.
Okay, and so as you said, Ledger is a primarily technology-based company and solution, but I'm curious what your opinion is about the role of regulation in cryptocurrency custody, particularly in regards to something like the Quadriga CX scandal that happened earlier this year. what do you think? Do you know, when it comes to things like cryptocurrency exchanges and other kinds of institutional settings that have users that store their cryptocurrency inside of, you know, the company or the exchange, or et cetera, do you think that technology is enough, or do you think that technology will be enough in the foreseeable future to really secure funds, or is there a need for regulatory oversight to take a look and see if the technology is doing the job that it should do?
So technology is necessary, but it's not enough, because to solve the pure security aspect of the management of the keys, you need a technical solution that can be based on secure hardware, etc. But you also have the process. For instance, if you can put in place solutions where someone can issue a payment and two other officers needs to validate, then you need to have the compliance and the regulation to make sure that the way people, the operators, are taking their decision is in accordance with the best practice for the company. So I think the role of the regulator is to make sure that the custodian or the exchange use the right level of technology. So you cannot have this quadriga issue or other exchanges that do not have the right level of security. And then also you have all the need to ensure a certification of the process. You have the certification of the hardware, the security solution itself, and then you have the certification of the process to make sure that all decisions are taken with the right level of responsibility and rules. So the solution is a combination of both. If you do not have regulation that tells that you have to take a right security solution, then any exchange could do anything, and at the end, the role is to protect the customer. And the only way to protect the customer is to make sure that the custodian or the exchange use the right level of security.
Okay. Eric, can you share what's on the roadmap for Ledger over the course of the next year?
So this year we have three main, I would say, subjects. The first one, of course, is related to our hardware wallet consumer electronics products. We are launching the Nano X, which has Bluetooth capabilities. And so we are providing the Ledger Live, which is our wallet on mobile as well. And we have a lot of new features that we are going to launch this year. So we are continuing to bring innovation in our consumer-facing solution. The second subject is to accelerate the deployment of the Ledger Vault. That is something that is very important strategically for Ledger this year, to demonstrate our capacity to address the market and to provide with the best product possible, and start to provide also with the first level of certifications, because that is something our customers are expecting, and we have to provide with the highest level of auditability and certification. And the last item for us is to demonstrate our technology in the IoT space. It's more about industrial customers with a first list of use cases that we are deploying this year. So Ledger is doing many things. We have this solution for individuals, enterprises, and industrials. And so for each of these three divisions, we want to demonstrate the capacity and the legitimacy of Ledger to operate in the space.
Yeah, can you just briefly go into a little bit more detail about Ledger's work and the Internet of Things and what kinds of use cases we might see there?
So we have signed a very interesting use case and partnership with Engie, which is a large energy utility in France and in Europe. And we have deployed a technology, so the same technologies that you will find in hardware wallet, so the secure chips, to tokenize the certificates of origin for renewable energy. So from a very pragmatic point of view, what it means is that we have our technology into the electrical meters of farms, for instance, windmills or solar farms. And when energy is injected into the grid, we attest this physical phenomenon, and we issue a token that represents the origin of the energy that has been injected. And then this token can be traded on markets. And the objective is to allow anyone to buy a specific type of energy. So you can have a city who wants to demonstrate that their electric buses are powered by local green energy. So it's a way to market renewable energy. And so it is based on a blockchain, because on a decentralized grid, it's good to have a decentralized protocol. And Ledger is providing all the technology to peg the blockchain application to the physical world. And that's a very interesting use case based on blockchain technology and IoT. And we see a lot of demand for this kind of use cases, because energy and blockchain is probably the first kind of industry which is going to get which is going to benefit from the blockchain technology.
That's really exciting. Yeah, we'd love to possibly do a follow-up interview with that once that gets some traction.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Before we end, is there any other news that Ledger or you would like to share? And can you tell us where your listeners can find Ledger products?
So the big subject at the moment for us is the launch of the Nano X, which is the new generation of a hardware wallet, Nano S, which has been sold previously to 1.5 million units. So for us, it's a big moment. And so you can find all our products on ledger.com.
Okay. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.